G'day and welcome to the first Storywise video blog, or vlog as they call it. I wanted to do this blog because I started to write it out and I realised it was essentially an oral story that I wanted to tell, and the best way to do that is obviously to tell you. And also there's been a few nudges that I should get with the program and video. So here I am, and I thought I'd come to where I often come with my dogs, and they're circling around. I'm in the pine forest near the res in Macedon. It's a bit windy, so I hope I've tucked myself out of the wind so that the audio is good. The story I want to tell you is the first story I ever told, I think, that was without notes to an audience in a particular setting. I was learning at the time to do group facilitation in a year-long program and with Group Work Institute, and I had a partner and it was our turn to facilitate the group. And I had for maybe 6 months been listening off and on to a podcast called The Art of Storytelling with Brother Wolf. Well, this is in 2011, before podcasts were very popular, and it was a great, amazing podcast for me who wanted to be a storyteller. And then I heard this story and I loved it, and I decided it was absolutely perfect for this event, to frame the facilitated session, although really I was just looking for an audience and an excuse. Anyway, they let me do it and they loved it. So here's the story. There was a young man, and he came from a village, but he'd, as a young man, he'd moved away to go and study, and he came home for the weekend one weekend, and he was out walking on the Sunday morning in a place a little bit like this. Sorry, that was my dog, not someone creeping around in the bush. And so he was out walking in a place a little bit like this, and he saw up ahead the local rabbi. And so he quickened his pace to get to walk in step with the rabbi. And they're walking along, talking, and suddenly the young man turned to the rabbi and he said, "Rabbi, how is it that every time, whenever it's needed, you know just the right story to tell for the situation? You've just got this knack, but how do you do it?" And the rabbi stopped and looked at the young man for a long, long time. And finally he said, "Let me tell you a story. Once there was an archer, a really famous archer throughout all the land, king's favourite, just the top archer everywhere. And he was out walking in the woods one day, the pine forest like this, and he came across a house, and at the back of the house, it was in a clearing, and there was this long fence, and on the fence were these targets, white targets, big sort of bullseye in the middle with a circle around the outside, and a whole series of them. And on that target, every single one either had one single arrow hole smack bang in the middle, or the arrow still there. And he was astounded. He could not understand how there could be such an archer, and he did not know about him. So we went up to the house and knocked, and a woman answered, and he said, "Excuse me, but I'm wondering about the archery practice outside. Does that archer live in this house?" And the woman smiled and said, "Why, yes, that would be my daughter, Gretel." And the archer's thinking, wow, you only look about 30. How could you, your daughter, adult daughter, how? "Gretel, Gretel," the woman calls into the back of the house, and out comes a young girl, about 12. And the archer just can't believe it. And he says, Are you the archer? Are you the person who does the archery outside?" Yes, that's me. I practice every day." And the archer said, "Would you mind coming and showing me exactly how you do that?" "Sure." So they go outside, and the little girl says, "It's really easy. This is what you do. You put your back up against the fence, and then you mark out 10 paces, and then you turn around and you line up your arrow and your bow and you let it fly. And then when it lands, you go and get the container at the base of the fence with the white paint, and you put the circle around the arrow, and then you put the bigger one around." Now, by this stage, the young man who was walking with the rabbi is laughing. And the rabbi says, "So that's how I do it." So I use that story in the context of facilitation because it is a little bit how facilitators have to weave and have the right approach and the right response at the right time. But I also would love to explore with you how it is that all of us can have a little bit of the rabbi in us when we have a bit of a store of stories, and we are able to call on them in a certain situation. And that's what I'm going to explore in the next couple of vlogs. But that's it for today. Thank you.